later on, as the Aryans moved down the Gangetic plains, division of labor developed and color differences became irrelevant because of intermarriage. So Varna acquired a new meaning. Varna was now an occupational group. Brahmin, reading and teaching Vedas; Kshatriyas, warriors and administrators; Vaishya, peasants and artisans; and Shudras, menial servants. So they were occupational groups now. All right. So that is how the meaning of Varna changed, and there was 4 Varna division, which was given in the last chapter of Rig Veda. Now, it is doubtful that whether in reality such a neat compartmentalized thing ever existed. So, that is why we refer to it as book view of caste. On the other hand, at the existential level, that means in reality, people lived as tribes, hereditary endogamous group with an occupational specialty. All right. Then later on, as I mentioned, this is Dipankar Gupta's view that earlier there was Asiatic mode of production that changed into feudalism, and as a result of that, different occupational groups started moving to the families who had land, and therefore multi-caste villages developed. And in these multi-caste villages, caste was called jati. All right. Jati, what is jati? Hereditary endogamous group with occupational specialty. I repeat, hereditary means membership was by birth. You belong to a jati on the basis of your birth. Then endogamous, you are supposed to marry within the jati only. And each jati had an occupational specialty which it offered to the landowners in return for food at the harvest time. All right. So here you may notice that Varnas are categories, जातिज आर कम्युनिटीज. ये समझे आप फर्क? कैटेगरी है सिर्फ के कुछ लोग ब्राह्मण हैं, कुछ क्षत्रिय हैं, बट वहां पे सिर्फ क्षत्रिय कोई नहीं मिलेगा, कुछ जातियां मिलेगी जो कहेंगे हम क्षत्रिय हैं, सो दे बिलोंग टू दिस कैटेगरी. ऐसे ब्राह्मण्स प्योर एक यूनिफॉर्म ब्राह्मण ग्रुप नहीं है. देयर आर सो मेनी जाति, जैसे मैंने कल एन्यूमरेट किया था, तब अपने आप को ब्राह्मण कैटेगरी से लिंक करती है. तो कम्युनिटी का क्या मतलब होता है? व्हाट इज अ कम्युनिटी? कम्युनिटी इज अ ग्रुप ऑफ पीपल हु शेयर कॉमन लाइफ कंडीशंस. सो जातिज आर कम्युनिटीज. वो इंटरमैरी करते हैं, उनका ऑक्यूपेशन सेम होता है, उनका कल्चर सेम होता है, दे हैव अ शेयर्ड वे ऑफ लाइफ which binds them together. So they are communities, while Varnas are only categories. And as Srinivas said, Varna is the book view of caste, while Jati model is the field view of caste. अब जाति मॉडल क्या है? This is what we talked about yesterday. So caste as a system. This point I made yesterday also, I'll repeat. System क्या होता है? When groups exist in interconnectedness, then it constitutes a system. So caste as a system means interconnectedness among groups. So caste as a system, one, is localized. It exists only at a particular locality. There is no pan-India caste system. इसके पार्ट्स भी लोकलाइज्ड होते हैं, मैंने जैसे कल आपको बताए थे. तो कास्ट एज अ सिस्टम इज लोकलाइज्ड. then it operates within a village or a group of villages, group of connected villages existing nearby. Then village consists of number of jatis, castes. It may be 3 or 4, sometimes it may be 20 and more. So caste is a system of stratification, a system of hierarchy, an economic system, a political system, and also a kinship system. Now, coming to caste as a system of stratification, caste groups are arranged in a hierarchy. All right, they are ranked. Hierarchy समझते हैं आप? Like layers one after another. ये word stratification जियोलॉजी से आया है. अर्थ क्रस्ट में स्ट्राटा होते हैं ना, ऐसे each strata is represented by a group. तो group ranked in a hierarchy. और hierarchy में another important point is the idea of superiority, inferiority. Those who are higher are considered superior, those who are lower are considered inferior. So caste exists as a hierarchy. अब this hierarchy has two dimensions, ritual and secular. That means caste groups are considered more or less pure. This is a uniquely Hindu idea, purity. There is no word for it in other languages except Indian languages. If I drink water from this, they say पानी जूठा हो गया. इंग्लिश में इसके लिए कोई वर्ड नहीं है, जूठा पानी. ये आइडिया ऑफ इम्प्योर है, जो यूनिकली हिंदू आइडिया है. हर चीज को, एवरीथिंग इज सीन इन टर्म्स ऑफ प्योरिटी एंड पोल्यूशन. So are people, human beings and groups are also ranked in purity and pollution. So ritual hierarchy is hierarchy in terms of purity and pollution. Another point I made yesterday, which I want you to remember, no group is pure or impure by itself. It is only in relation with others they can become either pure or impure. All right. Now, this purity level is expressed through rituals. If I put it in Hindi, ritual के माध्यम से हम purity level दिखाते हैं. It is expressed through rituals. For example, this example I didn't mention yesterday, I am mentioning it now, that it is believed that at the time of childbirth, every child is impure and every child is a Shudra. Then, when they reach puberty, they undergo a ritual which is called उपनयना सेरेमनी, जिसमें वो sacred thread डाला जाता है. That is considered as the second birth. It is only after that, अब तो ये नहीं होता, but in earlier times, only after that a child belonged to the caste of his parents. तो शूद्र ही होते हैं, बच्चा भी शूद्र होता है, तो शूद्र के बच्चे के लिए ये रिचुअल नहीं थी. They were not allowed to have this ritual. So, they were considered once born, and those jatis which belong to Vaishya, Kshatriya and Brahmin, they were called twice born. संस्कृत में इसको कहते हैं द्विजा एंड एक जाति. तो द्विजा जाति जो है, दे आर हाई रैंकिंग जातिस इन टर्म्स ऑफ प्योरिटी. एक जाति जो है शूद्रास, एंड below the Shudras were Panchamas, the fifth category. They were once born people. Then there were restrictions on food, water, physical contact, and so on. There is a very strange thing about our society, that physical contact is considered polluting. But when there is rape of a Dalit woman, they don't feel polluted. So, impurity is a stigma, but not a defense. Now, so these jatis are ranked in a hierarchy of purity and pollution. Then there is a secular hierarchy based on economic power, political power, numerical strength. If a group is very large in a village, they will boss over others. So numerical strength. And now another secular attribute is education. So those who are superior in terms of these secular attributes, they are ranked higher in the secular hierarchy, others are ranked lower. And the jati which dominates the secular hierarchy is called dominant caste, because these two hierarchies do not perfectly overlap. Sometimes the jati which is high on secular hierarchy may be very low on ritual hierarchy, at least middle. In ritual hierarchy, they will be placed in the middle. In the secular hierarchy, they will be at the top. Because of this aspect, M.N. Srinivas used the concept of dominant caste. That Brahmins very often are not a dominant caste. Sometimes they are also dominant caste where they own land. Like in parts of Tamil Nadu or in Karnataka, Havyak Brahmins are landowners. You must have heard of a surname Hegde. Hegde is a title for landowners. So Brahmins are Hegdes. So there they are a dominant caste. But otherwise, if they are not landowners, then they are not a dominant caste. They are high only on ritual hierarchy. They are worshipped at the time of religious ceremony, otherwise ignored. So this is how there existed two parallel hierarchies. Caste as a system of stratification. Now, caste also existed as an economic system. Production and distribution of food, goods and services at the local level, in which different castes offered their specialty either as artisans or as service caste in return for food by the landowner. This was called Jajmani system. Then dominant caste members controlled the village council, panchayat. So they exercised political power. That is how caste system was a political system. And as I said, members of the caste are either connected by ties of blood or ties of marriage. And that is how the jati at the local level is an extended kin group. People of the same jati can find out some connection, kinship relationship among them, either of blood or of marriage. So it was a kinship system. That is how caste operated as a system. Then I started talking about changes in caste. This is the type of, the way I have described it. Maybe this kind of system persisted till around mid of 19th century, 1950s. After that, it started changing rapidly. One, coming to caste as a system of stratification, what are the changes? Yes, ritual hierarchy started declining due to various factors: urbanization, industrialization, and secularization of worldview. So secular rewards became more important than ritual status. And that is why this policy of reservation has further given a push to the ritual hierarchy. Now nobody wants to become a Brahmin. You want to be ritually inferior so that you get reservation. So importance of ritual hierarchy has drastically declined. It still persists to a much lesser degree, particularly in case of those who are at the rock bottom in the ritual hierarchy, जिनको untouchables कहते थे. Regarding them, restrictions are still there, but otherwise the ritual hierarchy, urban areas में तो ritual hierarchy has disappeared altogether. The anonymity of urban life makes it impossible for people to practice ritual purity pollution practices. In rural areas also, it has declined. I gave you the study of Ramkhedi village, and there are numerous other studies. Now, even untouchability, there was a study, it is called Action Aid study. It was a pan-Indian study carried out at all India level. It was by a group of sociologists. Action Aid study. The group was called Action Aid Group. They conducted the study and it was published in 2006. That in more than 50% villages which they studied, and you know how many villages they studied? They studied 550 villages from different parts of India. Sample was 550 villages. In that, in more than 50% villages, untouchability was not practiced. So untouchability has declined. But to some extent, like in Tamil Nadu, Nandika would know, there was 2 tumbler system in the school, that Dalits will be made to drink water from a separate glass. Upper caste will drink water from a separate glass. So these are some remnants of earlier practice. But otherwise, untouchability has drastically declined. That means ritual hierarchy has declined. And even secular hierarchy has declined. For example, in urban areas, caste is not the basis of hierarchy. What is the basis of hierarchy? Wealth, occupational status, political power. All right. So, caste is not the basis of hierarchy in the city. Even in villages, Dipankar Gupta says that secular hierarchy is declining in the villages itself, mainly because of fragmentation of land. 90% of the landowners are now small and marginal landowners. All right. Now, to have a secular hierarchy, you should be having enough land so that you offer jobs to lower caste people to work on your land, and in return for that you give them patronage. Now that is not happening. Lower caste are moving to, there is a trend which is now witnessed, they call it feminization of agriculture. That more and more people are moving out of agriculture and taking up non-farm occupations outside the caste relationship. So what they are doing? Handing over their small plot of land to their wives, who manage agriculture using mechanized means. जैसे मैंने बताया ना, अगर आपको plow करवाना है, hire a man with a tractor for 2 days and the whole plot would be plowed. उसको खत्म हो गया. So women can easily manage agriculture now. So there is a trend towards feminization of agriculture in villages. One. And secondly, the secularizing effect and consumerist way of life, that has become the basis of hierarchy. So even secular hierarchy in the village is diminished. That is why Deepankar Gupta says that today caste as hierarchy is giving way to caste as difference. See, hierarchy तो vertical ranking होती है. Those at the top are considered superior, those at the bottom are considered inferior. Difference is horizontal. This is one group, this is another group, this is the third group. They see we are different from each other, but nobody is superior or nobody is inferior. This is caste as difference. So अलग-अलग caste तो है, we are different castes, but we are not ranked anymore. Ranking होगी तो in terms of education, wealth and power, not in terms of caste. So caste as hierarchy is changing into caste as difference. Twice they have asked this question in the UPSC, that what is more important today, hierarchy or difference? So caste is changing from hierarchy to difference. So this is about this caste as a system of stratification. Then one more dimension, caste as an economic system. Caste as an economic system has collapsed. Localized production has been replaced by industrialization. What happened earlier? Weaver would make cloth for people to wear. All right? He will supply cloth to the landowner, who in return will give him food grain. All right? That was Yajmani relationship. Now what happens? One, agriculture itself has become capitalistic activity. That means you practice agriculture to sell things in the market. And with that you get cash income. You use the cash income to buy industrial goods from the urban markets. So nobody wears the cloth made by the weaver. They wear the mill cloth, textile mill cloth. Like this, every aspect, shoes. You go to Bata showroom to buy shoes. So demand for localized production has vanished. And the relationship between farmers and labor, agricultural labor is still there, although demand for that labor has also decreased. You know how when your plot of land is so small, you don't need much of labor. At the most, जब जल्दी harvesting करानी होती है, that time you may hire somebody on in terms of wages, by paying them wages. So wage labor relationship have developed rather than inter-caste relationship. And therefore, Yajmani system has collapsed. Caste is no longer an economic system. Another aspect, the point I made yesterday also, that as I defined jati, how did I define jati? Hereditary endogamous group with occupational specialty. That occupational specialty has got detached, dissociated from caste. All right? You don't follow the hereditary occupation of your caste. As I gave you the example yesterday, that a barber, they would be called still Nai because of the hereditary occupation, but he may be actually working as an electrician, or he may be running a small business, or he may be in administrative service, or he may be in politics. So occupational linkage has been snapped, dissociated from caste. That is how the economic role of caste has drastically declined. The traditional economic role. Now, when there was interdependence among castes in the village, Every caste contributed its share. This created unity in the village. Everyone needed everyone else. So that is why village was a well-knit community. In sociology, we say caste system was characterized by organic solidarity. Organic solidarity means unity that comes out of interdependence. All right. Now that organic solidarity has gone, and that is why, because of other factors, there is now competitive alliances among castes. Different castes are competing with each other rather than getting united by contributing to each other. They are competing with each other for power. I told you, there are, new combinations emerging. Ajgar. Ajgar is an acronym. Ajgar means Ahir. This is a caste combination of North India. Ahirs, Jat, Gujar and Rajput. They are merging together for political purpose. So what is happening is fusion of castes which are taking the form of competitive alliances. One group competing with another group for power. तो वो जो यूनिटी आती थी, the unity because of jajmani relations has gone. That is why there is so much of conflict in the village today. At one time it was believed that village was a united group where everyone lived harmoniously and peacefully with the other. All right. This was a question in 22 that Andre Bete has said that harmonic system has changed into disharmonic system. Disharmony means conflict. Harmony means unity. So earlier there was more of unity. Now there is more of competition, and competition easily changes into conflict. So inter-caste conflict has become so widespread. And with capitalistic transformation after land reforms and green revolution, inequality among caste has further increased, economic inequality. Rural society is getting polarized because green revolution did not help the poor, small agriculturists. It helped the big agriculturists. So they became rich, small agriculturists became poor. So when the lower level caste, which were either agricultural labor or small agriculturists, when they demanded higher wages, that led to conflict. So you find atrocities on Harijans increasing and conflict among groups taking place. When they compete for Panchayat Raj elections, so that competition generates conflict. And at the same time, another pattern that is emerging is fission among caste. Fission, समझते, split into two. There are two persons who have ambitions for power, though they belong to same caste. So what will happen? The entire caste will get divided into two factions. आपको अगर simple example में दूं, you must be reading about Haryana elections. Jats in Haryana are divided into two rival camps. एक चौटाला family के supporter हैं, एक हुडा के supporter हैं, Congress supporter. So in every village, Jats are divided into two factions. This is a fission in caste. All right. So factionalism has also increased in caste because of political changes. Now, caste as a political system has also changed. Dominant caste no longer have the right to rule by themselves. Who rules now? Who has majority support? Middle caste were more numerous than the upper caste. तो पहले राजपूत और ठाकुर के पास पावर होती थी, अब जाट और यादव के पास पावर आ गई है because of their numbers. All right. Now the middle caste benefited because of changes introduced by the developmental process, and then they started challenging the domination of the upper caste. Like there was conflict between Jats and Rajputs in Rajasthan. पहले पावर राजपूत के पास थी, now Jats have become more assertive. So caste, although functions as a vote bank, caste based vote bank अभी भी है, but caste is not the political system. आप समझ रहे हैं फर्क? That power is not directly rooted in caste. It is based on numerical strength, whoever gets majority in the election. So those castes which were earlier powerless are now becoming powerful because of their numerical strength. So dominant caste concept has lost its relevance. It has drastically declined in importance. When Mention was talked of dominant caste, that was in 1950s. All right. At that time, power was with the dominant caste. So dominant caste concept was useful to understand power at the village level. But by now, that means 70 years later, dominant caste is just one of the groups who may sometime get power if they get majority votes. Otherwise, they are not automatically the powerful group. Clear? So caste as a political system has also collapsed. But caste as a kinship system is still relevant. Even now, people of a jati remain connected either by ties of blood or marriage. In 2011 census, it was reported that 95% of marriages in India are still within a caste. Only difference is, as I mentioned yesterday, पहले सब caste के differences होते थे. I gave you the example of Bisa and Dasa Agrawal. So Bisa Agrawal will marry only Bisa Agrawal. Now those sub caste differences are ignored. But as such, caste endogamy is still the norm. Only in urban educated middle class, westernized educated middle class, you have intercaste marriages. But in rural areas, overwhelmingly, and in small towns, even today, marriages are within the caste. So that is the bedrock. That is the foundation of caste on which caste survives. That is why caste survives today, though caste system has gone. Alright. Then there are certain factors because of which caste is also getting strengthened. Caste system is not getting strengthened. Caste identity is getting strengthened. Identity समझते हैं? How you define yourself? मैं कौन हूँ? आप कौन हैं? How you define yourself? वो कहेगा मैं जाट हूँ, मैं अहीर हूँ. So that is identity. Caste identities are strengthened while caste system has collapsed. क्यों? One, policy of protective discrimination, reservation policy. Now, reservation is based on caste. You have to produce a caste certificate to claim reservation, isn't it? This is called affirmative action or protective discrimination. So, because of this, caste identity are being maintained by people. They get official certificates of their caste identity. One. Secondly, caste has taken up the role of a political party. And this is a very interesting question, that caste has played a dual role. It has strengthened democracy and it has also weakened democracy. Our parties are in bad shape. In fact, most parties are a name for a caste group. Like in Tamil Nadu, there is a party, Patali Makal Kachi. Is my pronunciation correct, Nandika? Patali Makal Kachi. It is 1 year party. One caste, 1 year. So, caste has taken up the role of a political party. Caste has become a vote bank. People appeal to their caste sentiment to get vote. So, caste is being revived. Only caste identity is being revived, not caste system. Thirdly, caste has adapted itself to the demands of modernization. Indian society is modernizing. Modernization के अंदर क्या होता है? Urbanization, industrialization. All right. Now, in urbanization, what happens is people who urbanization कैसे होता है? How does urbanization happen? When people migrate from rural to urban areas. That is the main source of urbanization. When they migrate from different areas, so the neighborhood communities lack integration because their culture is different, because their practices are different. And therefore, they revive caste identity to create unity in the urban community. All right. That is called the expressive function of caste. It provides a solidarity. So there are caste associations in the cities. Then caste also plays an instrumental role, practical help. Instrumental role means giving practical help. Kaise? People want to study in urban areas, they seek higher education, they need hostels, they need colleges. Caste association will create a college for their members. They'll build hostels for their members. Sometimes caste associations also provide loans to start a business. So this is the instrumental role of caste, practical help. Not only sense of unity, but also instrumental role. So both these factors help the caste to survive even in urban areas. But this is caste surviving as caste identity, not as caste system. There is no interdependence unity in the urban area among castes. Here, then there is another way caste remains relevant even in urban areas. How? That modernization, the effect of modernization has been influenced by caste hierarchy. See, unlike China or South Korea and all these countries, after independence, we did not create equality first in the society. In India, we allowed the traditional system to continue. Only marginal changes were made, like land reform. So what happened? Upper caste benefited more than lower caste. So even in the urban hierarchy, upper high-ranking jobs, professionals, businessmen, they are predominantly upper caste. Engineers, doctors, lawyers, successful lawyers, administrators, predominantly they are from upper caste. And lower caste are predominantly in the low-ranking jobs, clerical, industrial worker, semi-skilled worker, manual labor. They come from लोअर कास्ट, पूरा जो इनफॉर्मल सेक्टर है अर्बन एरियाज में, दैट इज पीपल्ड बाय, पॉपुलेटेड बाय लोअर कास्ट. So, in the class-based hierarchy, there is a hidden caste. I'll tell you a study that was conducted by Santosh Goel. He conducted a study of private sector, looking at high-ranking occupations, president, vice president, managers, the upper stratum. He found that in his sample, 38% of the top ranking positions were held by Brahmins. Although Brahmins are only 5% of India's population. Although it is not uniformly 5%, Uttarakhand वगैरह में जो Brahmins ज़्यादा हैं, they are around 20%, but on an average in India, if you take the population of Brahmins, all Brahmins put together, they are about 5%. But their share in the jobs was 38%. So, top ranking positions are held by upper castes. There are a number of other studies. There is a study by T.K. Umman, study of doctors in Delhi. There is a study by Upendra Bakshi, profession of lawyers in India. All these studies report that Dvijas, twice born caste, which I said are the upper caste. And how much percentage are Dvijas in India? About 17%. About 17% are Dvijas, बाकी सब शूद्र. So, more than 80% of high-ranking occupations are held by Dvijas. So there is a correspondence. Hidden caste is present. ऊपर से तो वो caste based relation नहीं लगता है. He is an engineer, a lawyer, a manager, something like a chartered accountant, but actually the caste is the basis of their recruitment. Not formally, but because of the advantage they enjoy over the lower caste. So that is how caste is persisting also. Alright, so this is what is called the persistence and change of caste. Caste system has gone, but caste identity, caste consciousness is very much strengthened. There was a question in the UPSC when you, after we finish with caste system, have a look at the previous year's questions so that you can see whether you can answer all of them. So there was a question that casteism is the 21st century avatar of caste. आज की डेट में 21st century में caste exists is casteism. I am this caste, you are that caste, we are different. I favor my casteman, you favor your casteman. This is casteism, caste-based discrimination. So, caste is only operating now as casteism, as caste identity, but not as a caste system. So, this is about the caste system. If there is any question, please tell me. Caste is serving utility, unity. Earlier, it was the basis of unity when Jajmani relations were there. In the village, everyone needed the help of every other caste. When I take up M.N. Srinivas's view on caste, I'll read out a paragraph to you where he has described in a,
you said that caste is relevant till today.
Achha, in urban areas, how caste? Yeah. So members of a caste form an association. They run a caste journal. In that, they provide information for eligible brides and grooms. All right. So caste identity is being strengthened, and people, they interact together, hold various like Diwali festival. So members of the association will join hands and celebrate Diwali together. So that is how, that is the expressive role of caste which gives solidarity in the urban area. Yes, Rakshit, you have a question? Huh?
All the people from the upper caste celebrate Chhat.
Ha.
Tanwan.
That is, Chhat is by people from Bihar. Chhat is a Bihar festival. So that may be regional unity. It may not be caste based, but in Hyderabad itself, you will find, like, I have seen that in Hyderabad, there are various huge buildings which are Kamma Association, Reddy Association, Velma Association. These are the jatis of Andhra Pradesh. So, caste identities are preserved because caste is adapting. Adapt समझते हैं, किसी चीज नई हालात के साथ to be compatible with the new situation. उसको adaptation. That's what is adaptation. That you become compatible with the new situation. So caste has adapted itself to modernity in various ways. So it is required. It has been given a lease of life. Any other question? Yes? Huh? Kayasthas. Yeah. So Kayasthas come together in the city for Chitragupt Puja. Yes. They claim themselves to be descendants of Chitragupt. Chitragupt was, as per mythology, the record keeper in Lord Indra's domain. So Kayasthas were record keepers for Mughal rulers. So they, in their mythology, claim that we have descended from Chitragupt. So like that, there are mythologies surrounding every caste. Any other question?
Initially, there was less conflict. There was more unity in the village level.
Yes. Although this point is also challenged by Marxists. How? They say earlier there was unity because people didn't have a choice. This is what I was to talk just now. He has raised that same question. I mentioned it a little while ago to you that, as Andre Bate said, that society has changed from harmonic to disharmonic. Harmonic means peaceful and unity. Disharmony means conflict. So earlier there was a caste-based hierarchy, and the ideology justified inequality. What does Hindu ideology say? As I told you, Purush Sukta, that Brahmins are superior because they came out of the uppermost part. Shudras are inferior because they came from the lower part. So ideology justifies inequality. They say you are in a lower caste because of karma of your previous birth. You can't change that. So stay wherever you are. Now the ideology has changed. Today's ideology is equality and social justice. Reality has inequality. When people try to assert their right for equality, it leads to conflict. If the lower caste, they try to behave like upper caste, then there is retaliation by upper caste. I'll give you an example from Tamil Nadu. There are very low caste Adi Dravidas, and there is a caste of agriculturist landowners, Kallar. Now, the lower caste in South were not allowed certain privileges like wearing shoes. wearing jewelry for women. Women were not even allowed to cover their breast. So, when some Adi Dravida women started using flowers in their hair and wearing jewelry, and the men started wearing sandals, the Kallars retaliated, burnt their huts in the village. So they were not allowed to do that. So when people try to assert equality, this leads to conflict. Today, in reality, there is inequality. In fact, inequality ज़्यादा हो गई है. Inequality has increased. But in the rules, laws and ideology, we believe in equality. So caste conflict has increased. System has become disharmonic now. Because everyone wants to have the same facilities and privileges which earlier upper caste people enjoyed. You might have read about it in the newspaper. I have. In some villages in northern India, a Dalit, that means untouchable caste man, when he was getting married, he sat on a horse, because that is the custom in northern India, that groom mounts a horse when he goes to bride's house. He sat on a horse and carried a procession. Upper caste people attacked him, that you have no business to sit on a horse. Only we can do that. So like that, whenever there is an attempt to assert equality rights, that generates conflict. And that is how the system is changing from harmonic to disharmonic. Then competition for power also creates conflict. Then demand for wages also creates conflict. And this conflict increases when people get organized. Like in Bihar, I don't know whether you read about it. It is quite a few years ago, Jehanabad massacre. Have you heard of it? More than 50 Dalits and lower caste people, other lower caste people were gunned down by Ranbir Sena. Private army of Bhumihar. Bhumihars are one of the upper caste in eastern UP and Bihar. So that because they were demanding higher wages. They wanted that the minimum wages act passed by the government should be enforced. So when they assert their rights, make demands, this leads to retaliation. और retaliation इसलिए भी बढ़ रहा है because agriculture is becoming unrewarding. Even landowners are not left with enough surplus to accommodate these demands. So they retaliate. So this is how, for political reasons, for economic reasons, for legal reasons, for all these reasons, the harmonic system has changed into disharmonic. Clear? Any other question? Then, if there is no question from your side, what you can do is, day after, today is Tuesday, no? Day after tomorrow. By that time, you can all acquire this booklet of previous year's questions and look at the questions on caste. And based on that, if there is anything you are not able to answer, that can be your doubt. So we'll have a doubt clarification session again day after tomorrow. All right. Now, I move on to the other topic related to caste, on which, though it is not mentioned in the syllabus, but questions have been asked on this. Caste among non-Hindus. Caste among non-Hindus. First, I'll give you a theoretical background, then we'll discuss the empirical reality. There is a debate that is caste unique to Hindus or caste-like group exists outside Hindus? All right. So there is one view, that of Karl Marx. Karl Marx says in every society where there is private property, people are divided into two classes, two main classes, honor and non-honor. So upper caste are all landowners, or they own and control knowledge. In Karl Marx's language, they control either means of economic production or means of intellectual production, like Brahmins. So they are the upper class, and the landless or land poor artisans and service caste, they are non-ownership class, and so there is a conflict. And they say that in Jajmani relations also, people accepted what the upper caste said and demanded because they didn't have a choice. All right. There was no means of livelihood outside agriculture, and land was controlled by upper caste. They could not antagonize the upper caste. So that unity was based on helplessness of the poor. Today, they have options, they have alternatives, so they challenge the upper caste. So the conflict. All right. So Marx believed that all societies, wherever there is private property, there are class divisions. So it's a universal phenomena. Caste is also Indian variant of caste, based on Asiatic mode of production. It is the Indian variant of organization of production. So it is characterized by class division. Then Weber, another sociologist, he said every society has status groups. What is a status group? A group of people who share a common lifestyle. I repeat, a status group. A group of people who share a common lifestyle. And based on that lifestyle, they enjoy certain prestige, honor or prestige in society. So groups are ranked in a hierarchy based on lifestyle. Caste system is an example of that. Every society has status-based hierarchy. Caste system is the Indian example. It is one special type of status-based hierarchy, that is closed status groups, because membership of every caste is based on birth, so you can't change your caste. So it is closed. So these people think that caste-like hierarchy can exist other places also. But there are others who say that caste is unique to Hindus. I am going to talk about it in detail probably tomorrow or day after. Louis Dumont, that is the name mentioned in your syllabus also, one of the perspective on caste is that of Louis Dumont. Louis, Louis, Louis Dumont. So according to Louis Dumont, caste is unique to Hindus. Unique to Hindus because caste is based on the ideology of pure and impure, and this idea of ritually expressed purity is a unique Hindu concept. No other society has this idea. As I told you, अंग्रेजी में आप झूठा पानी का नाम के लिए वर्ड नहीं है, but in Indian languages, every language has a word for that. What? Whose view you are talking about? Louis Dumont. that caste is unique to Hindus because it is based on the ritually expressed idea of purity and pollution. So this notion of purity and pollution is unique to Hindus.
You think sacred, that is also same idea.
Sacred? No, sacred does not mean pure, ritually pure. All right. Purity which is ritually expressed. Why are some people pure and why are other impure? That is because of the Hindu worldview, certain things are pure, certain things are impure. As I told you, that clarified butter is pure, food cooked in clarified butter is pure, same food cooked in water is impure. So, this is a unique Hindu concept. So, caste is unique to Hindus. Now, they point out that there is racial hierarchy, say in America, blacks and whites. They say that is also closed because by birth you become a white or a black, so you can't change it. But there is no religious sanctity for that. There is no religious justification for that. That whites are superior and blacks are inferior. Unlike caste where there is a religious sanctity. So they say caste is not like race. Now, so what about caste among non-Hindus? They say, and on this point most people agree, that at least those communities which have come into contact with Hindu society, they have caste, or at least caste-like groups. If not perfectly a caste, there are caste-like groups among those people who have come into contact with the Hindus. So if we talk about non-Hindus, we talk about Muslims, we talk about Christians, we talk about Sikh, we talk about Buddhists. All right. So these are examples of communities which are non-Hindus. Now, starting with Muslims. If you look at the ideology of Islam, it says all believers are equal. Entire Islamic community is a brotherhood of believers. All are brothers, equal. So Islam does not theoretically, ideologically recognize inequality. But as Islam spread, Islam originated in what is called Saudi Arabia. All right. From there it spread to Iraq, that is Byzantine civilization, Iran, Persian civilization. So these societies had developed agriculture, and every agricultural society has inequality. All right. Caste in India is also a characteristic of India because of agriculture. Only thing is now it is refusing to die or dying slowly, but caste system was a part of agrarian society. So when Islam came to Persia or Iraq and Turkey, it was confronted with idea of hierarchy. So in theory they continue to be egalitarian. In theory they continue to believe in equality, but in practice they accepted inequality. And as I told you yesterday, caste system is nothing but a system of inequality. So they say even in Persia, Iran, Islamic society was divided into three categories. Ahle Kalam, they are like Brahmins, those concerned with religion. Ahle Teg, in Persian, Teg means sword. So, warriors. And Ahle Murad, that means artisans. So, there was a clear division. All right. So, it had already started accepting hierarchy. Then it reached India, the land of hierarchy. All right. So, second thing was that they came as conquerors. They defeated the Indian kings and established rule. So, they had power. So, those who were powerful, they thought they are superior. Then, large number of people converted to Islam. They say 90% of Muslims are Indian converts, Hindu converts. Either Hindus or Buddhists, they converted to Islam. So, when you convert, you don't forget your past. So, they carried their idea of caste along with them. All right. And therefore, caste-like groups. Why do I say caste-like? The only reason we use the word caste-like is that ideologically there is no justification for caste in Islam. In Hinduism, there is a justification. But for all other purposes, they behave like caste. One, hereditary membership. Two, endogamy. Three, idea of purity and pollution. You remember I told you nazis and nizasat. It's an Urdu word, nazis, which means impure. And nizasat is the condition of being impure. And therefore, they also place restriction on physical contact. That those who are from lower groups, they cannot enter inside the house of the people from the upper caste. So they came to be divided into three main categories. Ashraf, Atraf and Arzal. Ashraf, uppermost, Atraf, middle and Arzal, bottom. Arzal, A-R-J-A-L, Arzal. Have you read about Pasmanda Muslims? They are the lower caste, they are Arzal. Some members of Ashraf, Atraf and mostly Arzal, they are called Pasmanda. Pasmanda is a Persian word which means those who are marginalized. Now, who are Ashraf? Ashraf is the term used for the upper stratum of Muslims, either Muslims of foreign origin, Arabs, Persians, Turks, Afghans. So there are four categories among the Ashraf. Sayyid, Sheikh, Mughal and Pathan. Sayyid, uppermost. Sheikh next, then Mughal. and then Pathan. Pathans were Afghans, Mughals were Persians, and Sayyid and Sheikh were Arabic. So Sayyid are like uppermost strata of Brahmins, and there is a restriction on intermarriage. Among the Ashraf also, that a Sayyid will not intermarry with Pathan. I know a personal case, a friend of mine, he is a Pathan, and he got married to a lady who is a Sayyid. So I had gone to attend his wedding in Hyderabad. He told me that 20 years ago, this marriage would have been unthinkable. A Sayyid girl will not marry a Pathan because Sayyid are uppermost. Then you have Atraf. All the artisans, weaver, butcher, kasai, barbers, or rangre, dyers, atishbaz, dunya, these are occupational groups among Atraf. These are the people who converted from Hinduism. Artisans they were, because in caste system they were assigned a low position as Shudra, so they converted to Islam to get patronage of the rulers. If they'll produce goods for the new rulers who were the wealthy people, they'll get more money. So they converted to Islam. And Arzal are Dalit, the untouchable converts to Islam. And there are various studies, like there is a study of a village in Barabanki in UP by Zarina Bhatti. In fact, Bhatti itself shows that there is caste. Bhattis are Bhatiyas, Hindu Kshatriyas who converted to Islam. Bhutto, Benazir Bhutto's grandfather was a Hindu. He was a Bhutto. In Sindh region, Bhatiyas are called Bhuttos. He was a Kshatriya. He converted to Islam. So they retained his caste identity. So Zarina Bhatti says that you must have heard of a family of Kidwais. Freedom fighter was also there, Rafi Ahmed Kidwai. There is a road in Delhi, Rafi Ahmed Kidwai's name, after Kidwai's name. So he studied that village, which was where the dominant caste and the biggest landowner was the family of Kidwais. He found that there were all caste-like restrictions among people. Like lower caste people who were called as jat. They talked about unchi jat and nichi jat. Unchi means higher, nichi means lower. Upper caste and lower caste. And there was endogamy. A person from one caste would marry only within that caste. She reports in that study that a girl from Ashraf caste married a man from Atraf caste, like upper caste girl going to lower caste man. This is not tolerated by upper caste. There was so much of opposition and death threats were given, they had to migrate to Pakistan. They were not allowed to live in the village. So, caste-like groups very much exist among Muslims. This is the study of stratification among Muslims in Kasauli. Kasauli is a pseudonym. See, when they conduct studies, they give a false name to protect the identity of the people. It's a village in Barabanki which she called Kasauli. I don't know the actual name. So, he studied the Muslim community and they also had a similar practice. like among Hindus, I am going to talk about Sanskritization, that lower caste try to imitate the behavior of upper caste. The same thing happened among them also. In case of Muslims, it was Persianization. Lower caste people tried to adopt the Persian lifestyle, which was considered respectable. So there were caste-like groups among Muslims. Then there is a study of southern India by Tharmangalam. So 60% of Christians live in southern states. Largest concentration is in Kerala, then Tamil Nadu, Andhra Pradesh and Karnataka. Andhra Pradesh means also Telangana. Now, in southern India, again Christianity doesn't believe in caste, but there were people from upper caste who converted to Christianity 2000 years ago. Christianity came to India very early. There was Saint Thomas who came to Kerala and converted upper caste Brahmins and aristocratic Nayars into Christianity. So they subscribe to Syrian Orthodox Church, that is one of the Christian churches. So they are called Syrian Christians in Kerala, and they are considered like Brahmins, uppermost group. Later on, under British rule, there were mass conversions. Prior to that, there were conversions during Portuguese rule in parts of India. So they came to be known as Latin Christians. And then under British rule, there were converts. They were called either Roman Catholic or Salvation Army members. It is a sect of Christianity called Salvation Army. These Roman Catholics and Salvation Army people, they are called in Malayali language Puttu Christianikal. Its English translation means new Christians. They are new Christians, separated from Syrian Christians. And the neo-Christians, the new Christians, they are not allowed entry into, Syrian Christian household. They have to stand out. When they walk, they carry a thorny bush to erase their footprints, lest an upper caste Christian may walk and put his foot there and get polluted. Alright? And there was a school which was being run by Salvation Army, because most of the Salvation Army people were Pulayans and Parayans. These are the two untouchable castes of Kerala, Pulayans and Parayans. So that school was called Paraya School. It was not called Salvation Army School, because most of the students were from the followers of Salvation Army who were Parayans. And when they sit in the church, there is a clear demarcation. Dalit Christians are separated from upper caste Christians. In fact, that is the main reason for demand. Dalit Christians, are demanding reservation. They say after conversion also we are still discriminated. And caste identities are preserved. In Tamil Nadu, you talk about Velala Christians. So after converting to Christianity, they still retain their caste identity as Velala. Velala is one of the agriculturist caste in Tamil Nadu. And in Andhra Pradesh, before this election, you know the name of the chief minister? Jagan Mohan Reddy. He is a Christian. Jagan Mohan Reddy is a Christian. In fact, his brother-in-law is a missionary, Christian missionary, his sister's husband, Sharmila's husband. And he still names himself as a Reddy. Reddy is a caste. So after converting to Christianity, the caste has not gone. Even untouchability is practiced. See that Arundhati Roy, he has written a book called God of Small Things. In that, she mentions that the Syrian Christian are upper caste. So Syrian Christian lady is called Kochamma. That's a respectable name. She kicked one of her servants who was a Dalit Christian. That man jumped with joy. At least she touched me. He didn't feel unhappy that she kicked me. He said, at least she touched me. So untouchability was very much there among Christians. Then we have Sikhism. Now, Sikhism also developed as one of the Bhakti tradition, part of the Bhakti movement, and Bhakti saints attack caste system. And later on, because notion of purity pollution was rampant in India, they rejected that idea by instituting what is called Guru Ka Langar. That there is a community kitchen, food is cooked in that and shared by all, irrespective of their caste, sitting next to each other. Now, so because of this, definitely untouchability has declined in Punjab. But even now, caste groups exist very much among Sikh. The dominant caste among Sikh is Jats. Jats are called Jat in Punjabi dialect. So they are called Jats. They are a dominant caste, landowners. Then there are artisan caste. They are called Ramgadiya Sikh. Then there are Dalit converts, Majhabis, Adi Dharmis, Chuhudas. These are all Dalit castes, Valmikis, and they don't intermarry. I know a personal case, very close personal case it is. One of my very good friends, he got selected into IAS. That time, Gyani Jail Singh was the president. He sent a message for matrimonial alliance with his granddaughter. All right. His father said, Tarkhan naal shadi karange asi. Tarkhan, you understand? Carpenter. So he is a Ramgadiya, carpenter. And the gentleman was a Jat. He says, how can we marry a carpenter's family? We are Jats. They didn't consider that he is the president and ex-chief minister and home minister and all that. So caste does matter in Punjab among the Sikhs. Even the practice of untouchability is not so severe, so acute, not so strict, but it is still practiced. In the Gurdwara, they are made to sit separately. And many Dalits have their separate Gurdwaras. Then Buddhists, because most of the Buddhists that we have, except for Sikkim and Ladakh, Buddhists are Mahars, an untouchable caste to which Ambedkar belonged. Under Ambedkar's leadership, as a protest they converted to Buddhism. So they are called neo-Buddhists. They belong to one caste, Mahar caste. Mahar, M-A-H-A-R. So there is caste among non-Hindus also, especially those who have come into contact with the Hindus. And this is also found in Pakistan, because what is today Pakistan was at one time India only. So in Pakistan also, among Muslims, caste system is very much alive. So non-Hindus who have come into contact with the Hindu society, or they are converts from Hinduism, they very much practice caste system. Now, if there is any question, please tell me, otherwise I move on to another part of caste. Any question regarding caste among non-Hindus? They were called Syrian Christians. They are even now called Syrian Christians because they, were connected with Syrian Orthodox Church.
People converted earlier? Was it due to the fact that the people who converted earlier were upper caste and then the people?
Yes. Hindu converts, the upper caste converts thought themselves superior. This is also there in, Konkan region of Karnataka and Maharashtra. That's where under Portuguese influence, upper caste converted, because that was the religion of the rulers, Portuguese. So Hindu upper caste converted. They maintain a distance with the lower caste converts, which converted en masse during British rule. So after conversion, the idea of caste doesn't disappear. Any other question? No question? So can I proceed forward? All right. So there is yet another aspect, again, which is not explicitly mentioned in the syllabus, but on which they do ask questions. Mobility in caste. Mobility in caste. What does it mean? Let me first tell you the meaning of the term social mobility. All right. Mobility means movement. Social mobility means movement across the social structure. All right. So it can be either vertical, there is a hierarchy. So movement across the hierarchy. It may be upwards or it may be downwards. This is called vertical mobility. Like you are very poor, over time you become rich. The very conspicuous example is Dhirubhai Ambani. He started his life as an attendant in a petrol pump, filling petrol to the motors. He had only passed 10th standard when he migrated from Gujarat to Yemen. So started as a poor man. In fact, there was a shop near his petrol pump. It was called Reliance Store. he liked that name, and so he said, one day I'll name my business as Reliance, and that's what he did. And by the time he died, he was the captain of the industry, one of the richest men in India. So this is upward mobility. Of course, most mobility is not so, significant. Most mobility is that as compared to the father, the son may move a little higher in the social hierarchy. It is not so spectacular. But this is called upward mobility, and some people, when they decline in the hierarchy, it is called downward mobility. Both are together called vertical mobility. Then there is horizontal mobility also. That across without changing your position in the hierarchy, you move across the social structure. For example, an agricultural laborer is at the bottom of hierarchy in the village, is at the lowest level. So he moves to the city and becomes a construction worker. Even now he is at the bottom of the hierarchy in the city, but his role has changed. He is performing different tasks. So that's horizontal mobility. When we are talking about mobility in caste, we are concerned with vertical mobility, and most importantly with upward mobility. All right, have you understood this point? Now, as I mentioned a little while ago, that caste was a closed system of stratification. The hierarchy in caste was closed hierarchy. How? Because of various factors. One could not change one's position so easily. One, the membership was based on birth. You don't have a choice on your birth, which group you are born. Then marriage, you are supposed to marry within your caste only. Then ideology like karma theory says that your position is the result of previous karma of the previous birth, and therefore you can't change that, and so you can't move up in the hierarchy. Idea of jati dharma, that every caste followed a certain moral code, dharma. So every caste must remain loyal to their dharma. They should not imitate the way of life of others. So all these factors make caste a closed system. So theoretically speaking, there is no mobility. Clear? However, in reality, there is no society which is totally closed. That is impossible because things change. You cannot keep people in watertight compartments. Aspiration for mobility are universal. If you are at the lower level, you are being discriminated, you are being insulted, you are being deprived. So everyone wants to overcome that by moving up the ladder. So aspirations for mobility are universal, and opportunity is also developed. So no society can remain totally closed. Although in India, in ancient times, Hindu Dharma said that the king had a duty to prevent Varna Sankara. Varna Sankara is intermixing of Varnas. You cannot intermarry with. So intermixing of Varnas have to be prevented by the king. That was his duty. But even then, the society did provide opportunities for mobility. did provide opportunities for mobility. Now, if you can recall yesterday's talk, we said that initially there was a division between Aryans and Dasas. Now, members in the among the Aryans were ranked on the basis of their talent. So there was mobility among Aryans. A Vis could become a Brahmin or a Kshatriya or Rajanya. So mobility was possible. But later on, caste system started becoming rigid. When membership, idea of births being the basis of membership. Buddha led the first protest against this. Famous remark of Buddha is, nobody is a Brahmin by birth, nor a Shudra by birth. It is by deed alone that you can become a Brahmin or a Shudra. Alright? So he was in favor of meritocratic society. Society based on merit, not based on birth. But Buddha did not succeed. And gradually, Indian society developed a very rigid hierarchy. By the time of Manusmriti, a rigid caste hierarchy based on birth had come into existence. And as I told you yesterday, that when there is a stagnant economy, so mobility tends to decline. When there is economic growth and development, then mobility is higher. Because new opportunities develop. See how many people, they began with the startups and many of them have become billionaire. You know that, what is that? One of the startup which has been now sold to American billionaire. I'm just missing the name. Like Zomato, they deliver goods. What are the names of these? Huh? Blinkit is more recent. Prior to that, that was very common name. It's just that I'm. Huh? Zomato is there. There's another one. No, Zepto is also recent. That has been sold to an American multinational. Huh? No. Yeah, you can't be forgetting. Huh? Not Big Basket. No. Anyway, it's just that the name is not coming to my mind at the moment. So there are so many billionaires which have developed after economic reform because of economic growth. Now, so when the economy became stagnant, mobility declined. Another factor that in India, there was no central political authority which maintained its rule throughout India. Only for brief intervals there was single authority ruling entire India, like Ashoka's time. Alright, then Samudragupta's time, then you can say Aurangzeb's time. Except that all throughout history there was a lack of central authority. This is unlike China, where there was an emperor who ruled entire China. So different groups could capture power locally, and once they acquired power, they acquired land also, control over land, and through that they gained mobility. They acquired economic and political power. All right. It starts with the Rajputs. Rajputs are supposed to be descendants of Hans and Sakas, who after Harsha's reign captured power in northern India and adopted a name Rajputra, that we are not only the rulers, we are sons of the rulers. So they became an upper caste. As I told you yesterday, that there is no such thing as original Kshatriyas. Anyone who captured power and could hold that power long enough, he was called a Kshatriya. So, political power was a route to mobility. Similarly, during the Mughal period, as in urban areas, trade developed. There were karkhanas and there were artisans of very high skills who produced luxury items which were consumed by the ruling class. So they were able to acquire wealth through trade. So that was economic route to mobility. So either through wealth or by capturing power. I gave you the example of Shivaji. Shivaji was a Kanbi. He later on converted and became a Maratha and a Kshatriya after acquiring political power. So, either by acquiring economic power or by acquiring political power, groups could improve their position in the hierarchy. And once they acquired economic or political power, this was followed by adopting the lifestyle of the upper caste. They adopted the lifestyle of the upper caste to claim a high position in the ritual hierarchy. First, they improved their position in the secular hierarchy and then adopted a lifestyle which was of the upper caste and thereby claimed a higher position in the ritual hierarchy. All right. So this process has been described by M.N. Srinivas as Sanskritization. Sanskritization. Why did he call it Sanskritization? Because he said that the culture and way of life of the upper caste, which were most often dvijas, Dvija. Just now I told you dvijas, no? Twice born. And I told you that twice born people alone had access to rituals. They alone had access to Sanskritic Hinduism. In fact, we have two kinds of Hinduism which we are going to talk about later on. Great tradition of Hinduism and little tradition of Hinduism. So, the great tradition of Hinduism is the Sanskritic Hinduism prescribed in Sanskritic literary texts and practiced by dvijas. The non-dvijas, which were more than 80%, they did not practice Sanskritic Hinduism earlier. So when a group wanted to move up in the hierarchy, after acquiring economic or political power or both, they adopted the lifestyle of upper caste, which was Sanskritic lifestyle. Sanskritic means governed by Sanskritic text of Hinduism. Vedas, Upanishads, Shastras, Smritis, Shrutis. These are the various literary texts of Hinduism. So since they adopted that lifestyle, so he called it Sanskritization. That is why he used the word Sanskritization. So you understood the meaning of Sanskritization. Now write down the definition of Sanskritization given by M.N. Srinivas. He says, Sanskritization is a process. Sanskritization is a process by which a low Hindu caste or tribal group changes its customs, rituals, ideology, and way of life in the direction of high and frequently twice born caste. In the direction of high or frequently twice born. He is saying the high caste is very often a Dvija caste. Sometimes it may not be a Dvija caste also, but very often the dominant caste owning a higher status in terms of land or power, they are twice born. So they try to change their lifestyle, their customs, their ideology, everything in the direction of the twice born caste. For example, they may become vegetarian to imitate Brahmins. They may put their women in parda, which was an upper caste culture, domesticity of women. Upper caste women remained inside the household, practice parda. They may establish a joint family. They may dress like upper caste. So they change their entire way of life like a high ranking caste. Because the culture of the high ranking caste was governed by Sanskritic Hinduism, so M.N. Srinivas called it Sanskritization. He developed this concept in his study of Coorg. Coorg is a place in Karnataka. So the Coorg is the name of the place also, and the same word is also used for people who live in that region. Their original name is Kodava, but they are generally called Coorg, Coorgis, but their real name is Kodava. So the Kodava, they started adopting the lifestyle of Kshatriyas and later on claimed a Kshatriya status for themselves. So that it was the Coorg that he studied in 1940s, where he observed this trend and developed this concept of Sanskritization. Later on, this phenomena has been found all throughout India. So Sanskritization is a process of upward mobility within the caste. Now, under what conditions Sanskritization is possible? First condition is that the group which wants to claim a higher caste status should improve its position in the secular hierarchy. Either acquire money, wealth, or power, or maybe both. There is an example of board distillers in Odisha, studied by F.G. Bailey, Bailey. F.G. Bailey. They used to make liquor distillers. Liquor distillation is considered a polluted thing. Liquor drinking, as per Hinduism, is polluting. So they were considered untouchables. But by selling liquor to urban areas, they acquired a lot of money. And what they did, that after becoming rich, they started buying land. It so happened that Rajputs in that region, who were big landlords, were keen to sell off the land to maintain their lifestyle. So a section of the boards gave up liquor distillation and became landowners. So one of the prerequisites of Sanskritization is you should give up the polluting occupation, because of which you have a low status in the ritual hierarchy. All right. If you don't do that, then you can't move up. There is another study of untouchables in Agra. It was conducted by Owen M. Lynch, O-M-L-Y-N-C-H, Lynch, O.M. Lynch. In that study, there were Jatavs. Jatav is a subcaste of Chamars. Mayavati is a Jatav. Chamars in UP have two subcastes, Jatav and Kuril. So, in Agra, Agra was a center of leather trade for a very long time. So, Jatavs were primarily leather workers. Some Jatavs who were more enterprising, they took to trade, leather business, hiring other Jatavs to produce leather goods for them. And they became wealthy. So they also wanted to move up. They adopted the lifestyle of Thakurs. They even got a priest to write a new Ramayana for them. That Ramayana said that they are not Jatavs, they are true Yadavs. They said, have you heard of that myth of, what was that, Brahmin priest, Brahmin sage who destroyed all the Kshatriyas, Parshurama. So they refer to Parshurama myth, that Parshurama, when he was destroying Kshatriyas, these people cheated on Parshurama, and instead of Kshatriya, they took to leather work so that he will not kill them. So they are the real Kshatriyas, original Kshatriyas surviving till today. That is what that version of Ramayana said. But they didn't want to give leather trade. So Brahmins did not offer services to them, because to be accepted as upper caste, you should become a Yajman or Jajman. Brahmin should render services. In F.G. Bailey study, he found that Brahmins were able to render services because they gave up liquor distillation and became agriculturists. Here they did not give up leather trade, and therefore neither did Thakur accept them as equals, nor did Brahmins serve them, so they failed. So one of the prerequisites for Sanskritization is that the polluted way of life must be abundant. Now, it has been found that Sanskritization was most successful for the middle class, when the gap between their present status and aspired status was not very large. It was not possible for people at the bottom, because the gap between their aspired position and their original position, that gap is very large. Middle caste, they were able to move up to the higher level if they acquired economic or political power and if they changed their lifestyle. So, Sanskritization is a process of what in sociology we call elite emulation. Elite emulation, you understand? Elite, you understand? Elite means those who excel, people at the top. So, this is a common phenomena in every society that people at the lower rung imitate the lifestyle and habits of people at the higher rung to gain greater respect. Elite emulation. Emulation means imitating, following. So, most often it has been found that the local dominant caste was the reference group. Whose lifestyle would they imitate? The local dominant caste. They didn't imitate Brahmins because Brahmins are only ritually superior, but if they are not a dominant caste, then they don't carry any weight in the society. No one listens to them, no one cares for them. They are respected only at the time of religious ceremony and then forgotten. So, it is the locally dominant caste or what is called Kshatriya model, which was the most common reference group for emulation. And through Sanskritization, therefore, the Sanskritic Hindu culture percolated down to lower caste also. Through Sanskritization, the traditional Hindu culture, great tradition of Hinduism, percolated down to lower caste. But they say Sanskritization is a process of only positional change. What happens in Sanskritization? A jati or a section of a jati which improves their economic or political position, they move up the hierarchy. But in the process, when they are trying to move up the hierarchy, are they not providing a justification for the hierarchy? Are they not saying because Thakurs or Kshatriyas are superior, so we want to become Kshatriya? So they are reaffirming the idea of hierarchy. They are not challenging hierarchy. They are only changing their position in the hierarchy. Now, instances of Sanskritization have varied from time to time. During British period, initially, opportunity for Sanskritization declined. In fact, they say that caste system was never so rigid as it became during British time, particularly in the rural areas. See, earlier, as I gave you the example of Shivaji, there were so many people who captured power at the local level and improved their position therefore. But nobody could challenge the British in military. No king could defeat them. No group could successfully capture power after British rule was established. The feudal monarchical elite vanished. Power came by another means, which was much later, by Western education. So, during the British period, another factor of the British period was that agriculture became very stagnant, backward during British rule. So, in rural areas, there was no opportunity to move up. That is why the impression developed that caste system is very rigid. But actually, earlier there were opportunities, as I told you, either by capturing political power or by taking to trade. Groups could move up in the caste hierarchy. They could claim a new higher caste status. Then, afterwards, with the spread of modern education and modernization, again there was a boost to Sanskritization, because now the access to Sanskritic culture was open to all. Everybody could read Ramayana because printing press was there, Ramayana was available in the market. You buy the copy of Ramayana and read it. Earlier only Brahmins knew about it. So tape records were there, you can have listen to religious scriptures on a tape recorder. And so early modernization encouraged Sanskritization. But subsequent, so today nobody wants to Sanskritize. Nobody wants to claim a high caste status. They want to claim a lower caste status, backward. So Sanskritization has lost its appeal. Today, Dalits say that they are very proud of their culture. You know, Bhima Koregaon incident in which so many people, that was to celebrate the success of Dalits against Brahmins, Peshwa's army. Peshwa was the Brahmin. So now Dalits, they say, we are oppressed, we don't want to imitate you. We are proud of our own culture and heritage. So nobody wants to Sanskritize. Today, Sanskritization has lost its appeal. All right. So today we'll stop here. I'll continue with mobility in caste and then move on to untouchability tomorrow. After completing mobility in caste, then we'll take up untouchability, the next topic. All right. Keep looking at previous year's questions. Acquire this book for PYQs. All right. And keep looking at questions so that, see, this is new Vishal publication. It could be this or any other publication, you know.